The greater Ruaha-Katavi landscape is one of Africa's most iconic places for wildlife and conservation, preserving some of the most ecologically intact regions in East Africa. This landscape holds deep importance for the Wildlife Conservation Society.
The good thing about an aerial survey is it's the best general way of counting most large mammal species in a savanna setting like this.
For WCS, preserving the greater Ruaha-Katavi landscape is about protecting one of the last truly wild corners of Africa.
There is no way of understanding what the dynamics are, whether your conservation actions are succeeding, especially in wildlife terms, unless you also monitor wildlife numbers at scale on a regular basis.
A mission to keep these ecosystems intact for generations to come.
A survey like this is undertaken every 3 years, and these surveys provide the baselines, the key baselines in terms of the distribution of different species and the numbers of different species across this vast area. And using aircraft like this, in our case in this survey, 3 aircraft over roughly 4 weeks, flying systematically across the whole landscape, is the only way of generating the kind of data we need to compare the trends and the distribution of wildlife over time.
In the heart of Ruaha-Katavi, conservation faces a quiet battle. This survey is vital for understanding Ruaha-Katavi's wildlife. It will map the numbers and locations of large mammals across 19 protected areas and community corridors, covering over 96,000 square kilometers.
The Ruaha-Katavi landscape in Tanzania is a true wildlife stronghold. This is really a critical landscape for savanna, ecosystem, habitat and wildlife. That's why WCS considers this as a wildlife stronghold. It's an area that must be protected at all costs. Aerial surveys provide a way of periodically checking on how your conservation activities and programs are having an impact on ultimately what you're here for, the wildlife and also human populations too, and how they're interacting with wildlife.
Survey reports, they are important to provide them information to stakeholders, and the most important is information to inform the government to do the decision. They need all this information from the survey reports.
We are not recording only animals. We are recording several activities that is related to conservation. For example, we record if you're passing nearly the border or the boundaries, you see the human activity. So you record the human activity that lead to shrink the ecosystem or lead to loss the conservation or the ecosystem.
In 2021, an aerial survey led by the Tanzanian Wildlife Research Institute and WCS estimated nearly 20,000 elephants, a hopeful sign that the intense ivory poaching from 2006 to 2017 has been brought under control.
My project is mostly focused around changing from using the human eye to using digital cameras like this one to take photographs along the line of flight instead of relying on a human being to look out the window and count what they see.
We need these technologies nowadays because the world is moving so fast. The artificial intelligence, it's moving, so it's helping human activities. So we are moving toward that, so we can't avoid this.
We've done our best to maximize the use of this work to get as much information as we can for decision makers.
The aerial survey is not just an important exercise, it's a key step in guiding our conservation efforts. By understanding the current state of wildlife, we can take the necessary actions to protect our wild animals and the natural places they call home.